Notes on reflective essay, 1,000 words. Use the template. Look at the weekly content on the Student Select module. What is Student Select 3 about? Global Health Agenda. Healthcare systems in the world are different. Check the learning outcomes in the module, which are these ones: knowledge and understanding. Illustrate how the wider determinants of health, illness, and well-being relate to local, national, and global patterns of disease. Relate the principles of global citizenship, transferable, employability, and enterprise skills and attributes. Construct their own learning needs in relation to a specific activity. Apply key attributes of effective team working and shared decision-making. Subject-specific practical and intellectual skills and attributes. Choose health information materials and determine their suitability for different groups and communities. Interpret the relationship between theory and its application in practice with reference to the NMC code. So it's much more shifting from you to the local community to a global agenda. The rubric aligns to the learning outcomes. The importance of being a global citizen. You are going to work in groups. The essay is not just about the activity, the action of it, no. In week 1, we have looked at the broad themes. So what is reflective writing? Answers from students, so, not necessarily right answers, your experience of what happened. What you've learned and what you could have done better. In other words, what went well and what didn't go so well. Professor said that you could still say that the experience you had with the activity wasn't so great, but you have to explain why. What would you change in the future? Commenting on this, the professor says, so reflective practice is about learning something, working with other people, expanding your knowledge, identifying your gaps to be able to shape your future in healthcare as a nurse. There are different models for reflective practice. We are going to use the Rolf model, which is divided in what? So what? Now what? There's another model called Sean, where you reflect on practice and in practice. So just a 2-stage model, but we have to use Rolf's model. In week 3, there's going to be a Q and a kind of thing around NMC. Make sure your essay links to the NMC code. This assessment can be failed, so careful, guys. If it's not a reflective essay, if it's a list, it will fail. Writing style and grammar are also important. Reference and citations. Also make sure to engage with the Blackboard material. Use the discussion board for your questions. Remember to check the discussion board to get ideas and tips about the essay. So, what's the assessment about? You have a 1,000 words reflective account, based on the activity and the associated learning. We are using the Rolf model. You can start writing the first part. Apparently this can be written before the activity. What are the 4 pillars of the NMC code? 1. Prioritize people. Put the needs and safety of patients first. Provide compassionate, person-centered care. Protect the dignity and respect of those in your care. 2. Practice effectively. Deliver care based on the best available evidence. Communicate clearly and document accurately. Maintain up-to-date skills and knowledge. 3. Preserve safety. Work within your competence and prevent harm. Raise concerns and act to reduce risks to patients. Safeguard the health and well-being of patients. 4. Promote professionalism and trust. Uphold the reputation of your profession. Act with honesty, integrity, and transparency. Be a role model for others in your profession. So for the essay, you will have to choose 2 of these pillars. There's a lot of useful YouTube videos that you can watch in regard to Rolf's reflective model. You must use the reflective template that is on the module site and also the front cover sheet. Be mindful of the word count for each section. For example, for what it regards the first part, the limit is 150 words. Don't go way over that. The 1,000 words include the citations but not the reference list. Make sure to use and mention the NMC code and the teaching about global citizenship. Please read about the topic you chose. Make sure it is written in a formal academic style. Because it's a reflective essay, you could use the first person, but use it with moderation because the tone needs to be elevated. So you are allowed to write in the first person, yes. But try to avoid writing every single sentence with I. You still have a 10% allowance, but I would suggest not to go under the 1,000 words. The suggestion from the lecturer is that if you're going to mention that you're using the Rolf model with relative citation, just do it once to be mindful of the word count. Please look at the words in the template and make sure you understand what they are asking. For example, when you're asked to explain how you felt, is there a difference between explaining and describing? This is in relation to the difference between a level 8 to a level 9. We are level 9. In week 3, we will do the assessment surgery, so stay tuned for that. Make sure the English you're using is set to British rather than American. Check the spelling. If there are too many words with American spelling, the readers could think that you have used ChatGPT, as according to them, ChatGPT would write in an American English style. Make sure Microsoft Word is set to British English, otherwise it might try to change the spelling. Look at the rubric as well and the prior learning. So the what part, you should briefly describe and examine the nature of the selected activity, how you approached and engaged with it, and the related learning resource. Consider your own prior understanding, knowledge, and gaps, 100 to 200 words. Did you know anything about the activity you chose, which in your case would be alcohol misuse? So my prior knowledge about this was limited, however. This would be the what part. You can drop some bullet points. You could give it a structure, no bullet points in the actual essay. This is to prepare it. You could say why you chose that particular activity. For example, I didn't know very much about it, and that's also why I chose it. To expand my knowledge about this topic that interests me, because it doesn't have to be like that, but it could. I could say, for example, that I chose this activity because I know this issue is very much relevant to Scotland. Alcohol constitutes an important pillar of Scottish culture and economy. Put some data here. And also, alcohol abuse is an important issue in Scotland. Something like that, with relative data. But should I put them here or in the next section? We'll see. Let's go on. Activity 1 was a class-based activity, so we were all in a big classroom, we were divided into groups, and we all worked on a particular issue. So you need to pass this part really quickly. You don't want to write it again, you don't want to spend other words describing the activity in the next slots. The next part is going to be the so what part, and it's going to be more in-depth. The word analyze here comes to mind. In this part, you have more words allowance. Here, there's going to be a reflective discussion. Here, we are going to bring the Week 0 material, the global citizen stuff, Week 1 and Week 2 material. Stick to the word count for each section. Remember, do not repeat yourself. Where did you get that knowledge from? So you need to back it up with a proper citation. The NMC code year is 2018. So this part is bigger. Check in the template for the number of words for this part. You could check the feedback from the previous reflective essays to improve your new essay. A suggestion from the lecturer, it's good to write stuff, and then you can move it around. What do the words appraise, critique, examine mean? You can Google them. The last part of the essay must be linked to the NMC code. Check the rubric as well. Remember the 4 pillars that we mentioned before: prioritize people, practice effectively, preserve safety, promote professionalism, and trust. So at the end of the essay, you are going to choose 2 themes from the NMC code that align best to your essay. I think, this is me talking, not the lecturer, that the lecturer by themes he means pillars, not the bullet points under the pillar, but the pillars themselves, because at some point he mentioned the 4 themes, and the pillars are 4, so I think that by themes they mean pillars. You could also say, said the lecturer, that your activity actually links to all 4 themes. However, I'm hoping to look at the 2 themes, for example, promote professionalism and trust and preserve safety. Answering a question about quoting direct phrases, the professor said that we cannot rephrase the 4 themes or pillars of NMC code, and when we mention them, we have to cite them properly. Avoid direct quotes, but don't rephrase either the NMC code. Critical doesn't mean criticizing, it means saying, for example, actually from this learning, I've realized there's a behavioral change approach, however. What are the differences between the global population trying to get someone to stop smoking or drinking, age, race, religion, background, protected characteristics, etc.? That's the good narrative in your essay to say, for example, locally in Scotland there is a percentage of young adults smoking 16%, however globally is 57%, in America, Asia is 2%. The statistics are fictional. The global perspective of healthcare, this is all this module is about. So the question is, let's say there are 40% of deaths in Scotland for alcohol or alcohol-related. I came across this paper from Australia that says they only have 10%. So what are they doing differently in their healthcare system or in their Educat Ion system that we are not getting right? So the future nurse could go, we could learn from Australia. What does it mean to be a global citizen? What is the global perspective in that healthcare? And how does it link to your essay and your activity? Maybe it's part of the learning in the reflective account. To say that you weren't aware of what the global challenges for healthcare was elsewhere other than in Scotland, the NHS, or in England or in the UK, and this module allows you to look at that, explore it, and read around it. Last part, 100 words check though. Choose 2 pillars or themes of NMC code. First part of the lesson finished. Second part of the lesson. What is the difference between reflection and reflective practice? There's some material on the module site about this. Reflection is what? Answers from students. Learning process. Looking back at what we've done, it's a thought process. You do it in your head. So what is reflective practice then? Answers. Implementing the action. You are writing down your thought process, your ideas. When you write something down, you remember that thing better. 3 questions. What did you do today that you are happy about? What could have you done better? What will you do differently next time? I think these questions are meant to prepare us for the reflective essay. Get a lot of ideas, thoughts down, and then give it a structure, a shape. We need to look at your role in professional learning. So it's the foundation for your professional development. It makes meaningful experiences and transforms insights into practical strategies and personal rules or roles. Audio not clear here. You've got an action plan. This is what happened. This is what I thought about it. This is what I might do better. And the reason I might do it better is because, for example, I wake up every morning 10 minutes earlier than what I usually do. So we need to learn to pay attention to ourselves. But how do we do that? We make assumptions. We all have biases. We have to keep ourselves educated, to keep us learning and make sense of what we are learning, in order to do things better, in order to see that bigger picture, because it's not just about you, it's about who in the healthcare system is working with you, the patient, their values, patient-centered care. What have you learned so far in Student Select? The importance of reflective practice. Learn the meaning of global citizen. This module has 3 overarching themes. Read the module Learning Stuff, please. Reducing health inequalities. Global citizenship. Sustainability 17 Global Sustainable Health Goals. NICE Guidelines NMC Code. There's a PowerPoint to read. Seminal article. The Rolf model is reflecting in practice while you're doing something and you reflect on practice after you do it. Sorry, I think it's more Sean than Rolf. During the activity, I participated, I chatted with the group, or I didn't do any chatting in the group work. Why did I not chat in the group work? Why didn't I put my hand up and say, I disagree with what the group is saying? Why did those 5 students I worked with take over and railroad the conversation? I had a really good idea, because I did all the learning and they said, sheesh, you be quiet. Next time, I'll be able to raise my hand and say, I've got a really valid point to make. You need to take time out to reflect, like in the car after a shift, by yourself, in silence. Write down all you want to write. At the beginning, don't mind the template if it helps. Branch the thoughts off. Then, you start to give it a structure. Or you could use a mind map. For example, you could say, in this part I want to cover these 3 parts. Let's say, for example, global citizen. Definition: what is it? What it means to me, how it is related to my activity, or reducing health inequalities. Apply the same questions. Or sustainability goals. Listening is a very good reflective tool. Nurses should be good listeners. Suspending judgment or criticism, this is good to mention for your future practice. Also, respect the voice of others in the group. So, we put all the ideas on the paper sheet. Maybe we do a mind map or picture. What do we do after that? A student says, you are looking for the information to back it up. You then paraphrase it, and you structure it, and you go back to the questions, what? So what? Now what? To what section does this part fit better? This model is cyclical, it doesn't end, it's a cycle. In regards to the references, the lecturer keeps mentioning the Sean reflective model and the 1983 article or piece of work that talks about it, but we are using the Rolf model, so I don't know why he keeps mentioning it. But I'm pretty sure that when he talks about that, for me it means that I can and probably I have to cite the Rolf first appearance, the proper citation, the seminal article. There will have to be citations about alcohol use or smoking cessation or stuff like that depending on what topic you have chosen. So, you're using the theories and educational theories. At this point, make sure to have the Rolf model sheet in front of you so that you can look at all the questions that belong to every section that they can help you to answer, or better, to fill that section. There's a part in the Rolf model where we can talk about our feelings. For example, I was anxious or apprehensive or excited, thinking about going to the learning activity. How were you feeling? In another part, I thought I knew everything about alcohol issues. But I realized that I didn't know it all after all. I learned that, blah, blah. As a future nurse, this new knowledge will help me to shape my practice in such a way it should all link up fairly nicely. You can check the feedback from previous reflective essays, and that should help you to improve your reflective essay. Make sure to add valid references, otherwise it's a fail. State the activity and where you are supposed to state it. Probably not in the sections as it's not part of the word count. Check the instructions. Don't waste words, says the lecturer. Check the slides he was using. NMC code is 2018. Web page updated year doesn't matter. End of lesson.